In glorious sunshine and a fabulous circuit, the Blancpain GT Series reaches the third race within the Endurance Cup for this year. And here at Paul Ricard, qualifying is about to get underway. It's a very tight timetable for the teams. Yesterday they did the free practice and the pre-qualifying. Today there is qualifying and this Leviathan 6-hour race, a grueling 6-hour race that starts early evening. It goes from the sunshine to the dusk to the darkness, this precursor to the night racing at the Spa, 24 hours. And Paul Ricard looking a little different this weekend because it's morphing back into a Formula One venue. The French Grand Prix will be here, is just a few weeks away, and there are more grandstands, there's more building going on. But what is great is that a circuit that was closed, of course, for public racing for so long is now embracing public events once again. David Addison and John Watson trackside, soaking up the sunshine at a fabulous circuit, John. And I know I say it every time, but let's get it out of the way. What an entry we've got, looking forward to what should be an absolutely stonking race.
Well, good morning, and David, you're absolutely right. The entry, I mean, I'm looking through it every time I look down at it. I have to look at it 3 or 4 times and catch names that normally we wouldn't expect to see. I mean, the one that for me is the standout name is from Australia, Chaz Mostert, who is a supercar driver in that championship. He is in the row racing BMW. I suspect it's all a part of the preparation for the Spa 24 hours as we look at the 5.791 kilometre Paul Ricard circuit. 13 turns, well, that's interesting. We've got 15 on the official map, but anyway, that's the turns that we're being shown here. I mean, this is a racetrack. It's so far ahead of its time, and it was introduced in 1970. And when it was first used, people couldn't believe the space, the runoff, the safety features of the circuit. Fundamentally, it is still the same racetrack. The principal change that has occurred, and that was a number of years ago now, is into turn 1, where it is now a much more acute turn to the left and then a cut back to the right. Aside from that, this track is virtually as it was when it was introduced in 1970.
It's a Mercedes circuit in a sense after what we saw yesterday, because fastest at the end of the day in the pre-qualifying session was Maro Engel in the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes, a car that of course came close to winning last year. Black Falcon, they were out of sequence on pit strategy as you look at Dries van Thor, but it was a mechanical problem late race that cost Black Falcon a win, and Bentley victorious here at a race that's normally fairly kind to both Bentley and Nissan. But we'll see how things pan out over the course of 6 hours to come the race this evening. But the Mercedes quickest yesterday from the Silverstone winning Aston Martin, because 76, the Art Motorsport second car, 76, the Vazivier Dennis team car, that was second fastest last night, and a very impressive third, Ewan Hankey doing the time in the Ram Racing car with Sander Jolok and Darren Burke. But one of the stars of Silverstone, the Emil Frey Lexus, Emil Frey Racing with the Jaguar and this new Lexus project. It's never been a team that's prepared to have an easy life. You're looking at the Jaguar, but that Lexus, John, in a very short space of time has become a very serious bit of kit. Well,
certainly at Silverstone, I think the performance was, I mean, where did this come from? And all of a sudden, Lexus put themselves right onto the podium. They were third in the 3-hour race at Silverstone. Here, of course, there may be revisions to the balance of performance. Everybody is subjected to a potential change depending on the car's performance. So we wait to see what the Lexus might do. Looking down through timing and scoring yesterday, the Lexus were inside the top 20, but they didn't at this point illustrate the kind of pace that they showed in Silverstone. But of course, you get 8 sets of tyres from the point when you start your pre-qualifying runs. How you want to use those tyres, bearing in mind that it is mandatory that each driver in each of the 3 qualifying segments must have a brand new set of rubber. So some teams will have been sparing of their 8 sets for Friday's running with the view to having more new sets for the 6 hours which will get underway later this evening.
55, the Audi there you can see from Attempto Racing, Kim Louis Schramm, drafted into that car for the weekend. There has been a few, inevitably, late shuffles of driver, and Kim Louis Schramm takes over the drive of Nicolas Pola. Kim Louis Schramm pretty quick in the ADAC F4 Championship. So, Q1 underway. Remember these days that every driver must go out in a session and then you add together the times and aggregate them to work out the grid. So there's the fascination of individual drivers. There's this new fascination of how jumbled the grid is going to be.
And 51 cars will be going out on track. I mean, the pit lane, there you see some drivers haven't even quite finalised whatever the last detail of attention that they are doing. So one of the, is that one of the?
It looks like a Lexus.
It does look like the Lexus having to be pushed away.
Oh no, it's a Mercedes. I think it's one of the ACA ASP Mercedes, and with the problem, so that impedes people getting out onto the circuit.
Look, 40 seconds of the session, 45 seconds of the session have already gone as the Nissan makes its way. That's the 22 Nissan. That's the original Nissan GT-R, the 23 car, which is the Evo version. And in fact, it was just announced over the weekend that from January 2019, the Nissan GT-R Evo 2 will be available to partner teams.
Excellent.
So they shall choose to take it up. And it is a significantly different car to the original GT-R one. What a shot, look at that. The head-on shot coming into Scene Corner, the big corner here at Paul Ricard. Clear as gin, the air absolutely stunning this morning.
And it's the full straight. Of course, there are so many different configurations of Circuit du Castellet, but here it is the full circuit in use, and on the outside of Senior is the inevitable conversation of track limits.
Well, track limits have been a conversation point already, but it's on the edges of Scene. And yesterday I did a little piece of camera work with Dirk Muller. We did it in a standard Porsche 911 Turbo S. And I said, take it easy, take it easy. But on the exit of Scene, we let the car run wide and go over those curbs. You do not appreciate the degree of shock load and how uncomfortable it feels. Even this is in a passenger car, not in a race car. But the amount of shock load that goes into a car going over, they're going to do this for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it made me appreciate just the engineering that has to go into building a contemporary GT3 car. These cars are built to be abused, and they will get abused throughout every second, let alone hour, of this event this evening.
Now you're looking at number 90. This is the ACA ASP car. Jules Szymkowiak goes first. He's got the road pretty much to himself, but of course the danger is that he's going to catch all this traffic on the next lap. Pounds over the timing line. The circuit also, by the way, has been resurfaced. It's a bit like Silverstone has, and it's got this new, faster track surface, which doesn't have the same tyre degradation. So what the teams are expecting is the tyres will hold up to a stint better, and rather than have the tyres drop off, where you're going to see the difference in speed of the cars will be purely down to the fuel load.
But, and what you've said is absolutely correct, but what the future for track surfaces for Formula One is aiming at is not having a very smooth surface. They want a very aggressive surface so that tyres degrade much more quickly, so that they try to find a way of introducing more differentials between cars on fresh tyres, cars on tyres that have done a half a stint or a full stint. And we saw at Silverstone likewise, 2 weekends ago, where the Grand Prix circuit had been completely resurfaced. That accounted for an increase in lap time, probably in the region of 1 to 1.5 seconds per lap. Every driver stepped out of their cars, and the grip level here has gone up. I mean, it was so noticeable, they could tell from the seat of their pants. Forget about the stopwatch. You see the 90 car as the first car on a full flying lap, understandably. Fastest first and second sectors overall. But David, as you mentioned, having to contend with traffic and more and more traffic, as we got just 11 minutes of this session remaining.
Now you can't add fuel, so the cars get lighter as you go along. You must have a new set of tyres per session. It's in the regulation, so we can anticipate that Q3 will be the faster, and the teams will perhaps hold their gun driver in reserve. So we have the times in the individual session. We've got how the grid is being formed. There's an awful lot to keep an eye to these days in qualifying. They're hectic sessions.
Yes, and the 90 Mercedes looking at now Jules Szymkowiak behind the wheel, then it'll be Jack Manchester doing the second stint, but then Nico Bastian, who is perceived to be the quick guy in that 90 car, and we know how quick that car has been over the 2 endurance rounds we've seen so far this season. Szymkowiak's first flying lap, 1:56.004. Quickest lap in the second free practice session yesterday, a 1:55.3. So good opening lap from Szymkowiak, almost that you might describe it as a sighting lap.
And you've got there Mikhail Alyoshin in the number 72 Ferrari, the SMP racing car. And he's yet to do a proper lap time. Second fastest has gone Jordan Witt in, as John's been calling it, the original Nissan. And then third, and it's going to change, I'll grant you, Stefano Gattuso for the Daiko Lazarus Racing with the Lamborghini. But Alyoshin here, the Russian driver, rushing through the traffic, trying to swap the traffic aside as he gets onto the Mistral straight now, coming out of Saint-Baume and making his way on this speed-building, absolutely flat-out section up towards turn 10. Briefly, Stuart Leonard had gone top, and now Marcus Paltela goes quicker than anybody.
Yeah, 1:54.8, quickest lap of the weekend to date, and it's in that Lexus. So whatever Lexus have done at Silverstone, carrying it forward here to Paul Ricard.
So Alyoshin out of senior and then makes the run up towards the double droit de Beausset. Careful with the throttle through here. We've seen people run wide in the past. Now, who else is on the quick lap? 35, which is the Denis Bunatov Mercedes. He's done an absolute best in Sector 1.
The other thing, David, I noticed during this little program on Friday afternoon, when you're sitting low in a modern GT car, the thing that is most noticeable about the Paul Ricard circuit is that reference points are almost non-existent.
Really?
Everything is so, all the curbing is so flat. You come up to this sequence of corners, this is the far end of the racetrack down at turns 3, 4 and 5. I bet this is coming on to start-finish straight now. You really have difficulty in seeing where is the clipping point. You think it's difficult in daylight, wait until you get into darkness, in spite of the powerful headlights that these cars run. And it is suddenly, when you watch it on TV, you think, well, that looks very straightforward, very... Turn 1, not a problem. Actually, finding your pit clipping point in turn 1, this is the exit of turn 2 on board Maro Engel. And this is a car, the Black Falcon number 4 Mercedes, that without hesitation, shadow or doubt, is a potential winner. Then you get down into this little chicane, down at turns 3 and 4, then the short squirt into turn 5, a place where people do try to overtake, and drivers have been pinged for running wide on the exit of turn 5, then through the next right-hander, then up into the sweep onto the straight through Lake Cole, flat out. Now watch the outside, there are markers there that say if you go on the wrong side of that, you will be done for track limit, excess of track limits. Onto the kilometre-long Mistral straight, getting up to around, for the quickest cars, around about 280 kilometres per hour. And believe me, the closing speed as you come, and you can see the slight incline as you come up towards it. Listen, is he flat? Well, it was a fairly substantial lift. Question is, and I asked Dirk Muller this as well, is it just a lift, or is it a lift and a shift down?
Yeah.
And he was truthful and honest and said, well, for me, it's a lift and a shift down. I don't know whether that'll apply to all the competitors here this weekend. Back now. We're looking for, you can't see your apex. Everything is so flat.
Yeah.
Where is the reference point? When I raced here, there were corner markers, said go left, go right. There's nothing.
But also, you've got this red and blue paint there, this abrasive paint to try and slow cars down if they go on the runoff. Is that a confusion as well? Because you've constantly got out of the corner of your eye these red and blue swirls just to add to the complication.
I think that the difference was back in the days when the circuit was in its heyday in the 70s in particular, and into the 80s up until the beginning of 1990, the outside of the corners, there was a contrast from the tarmac to whatever constituents where the off-track, often it was just something that you would see there, that almost like well, it's not gravel, yet it's not a gravel trap. So that contrasted with the racetrack, but now you've got this sort of almost surreal, I mean, it makes your eyes go a little bit funny. You've got blue and black and red and black and white. It is different, and it's an easy circuit to learn. There's nothing tricky about it, but it is this point of reference. And we're back on now the number 1 Audi, quickest of all, 154.413, as it happens. So that is Alex Fontana behind the wheel.
So that's the Jaguar, isn't it? That's fastest, yeah.
It's down to 5th gear.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the reason you go down to 5th gear is if you've tried to take it in 6th, when you get back on the throttle, you're not at peak power, you're at maybe peak torque, which runs wide, and again, into Beausset, that's the name of the corner. Corner number is turn 11. But if you go into Beausset and run very high up and get into that blue on the outside, to give yourself a better chance of diving down to make what is a very late apex, then you might find yourself again getting a little message on screen saying track limits, abuse of track limits, Alex Fontana test. An interesting line come through the penultimate corner, not one I'm familiar with, but then there are lots of lines I'm not familiar with, so I'll pass on from that.
Now, at the moment, Andrew Watson is the fastest in the Garage 59 McLaren. McLaren, if I say it's a spent force, that's a bit unkind, but it isn't as strong a brand as it used to be, but that's a good effort by Andrew Watson, as there is 911. This is Romain Dumas at the wheel in the Manthey Racing Run Porsche. 19th fastest, now 20th fastest, because others have just gone quicker. Dumas crashed out of the lead of the Nürburgring 24 Hours a month ago, but the sister car, won the race, which was red flagged and restarted in horrendous weather conditions. And one of those drivers, Fred Makovici, is in this car. So it is a very strong combination, Duma, Makovici and Dirk Werner, and this could be a winner.
It's certainly a car, and the strengths that the Porsche have. Now, another element of the Porsche strengths, I understand, is it is very, very fuel efficient. And I don't mean just how much fuel the engine burns. Oh, wow, Roman Ruma just got it back in. But that is one of the strengths that the Porsche has. So, again, that gives them more flexibilities in terms of when do they want to stop the fuel loads that they will carry. Do they carry fractionally less, let's say, at the start of a race, or would they maybe short fuel, although time restrictions on pit stop kind of negate the benefits of doing that?
Had I also mentioned that Stuart Leonard has had a lap time deleted because that was the track limit abuse, and we've also got another one now, car 82, which is the Grasson Racing team, Phil Key, losing a lap time for track limit abuse. You're riding on board then with Romain Dumas.
We're waiting for the time to come on page one, and still waiting for it to come on page one.
So not a great lap. Breaks the beam down towards turn one. 21st fastest, that lap was his best for 1:55.390, but Dumas 21st in the time, using all of the road. And there's the new Bentley, this 4-litre twin turbo from the second generation car, Vincent Abril at the wheel.
I mean, taking mega amounts of curb on the inside of the chicane. I mean, they almost had all four wheels inside what I would say was the apex of the corner. Now, again, very, very rough down to that part of the racetrack doing so. And, you know, sometimes a driver does it and it's quicker. That's the reason you do it. But what you sometimes, as a driver, maybe aren't fully appreciative of is it is so aggressive on every element, the mechanical elements, particularly in the suspension. The other area you need to be careful if you want to go aggressive like that is it is easy because there are sharp edges around cutting down tires. We did see a lot of that last year.
It's true, we did actually, you're quite right. Pirelli, of course, provides all the rubber and will advise drivers and teams about pressures and about lines and try and maintain the length. Andy Soucek looking on. Bentley always has a big presence at this event. Drive into the circuit, there's a Bentley VIP area, hospitality, always a feature here for Bentley. So it's a race they're keen to win with, of course, this new car.
Yes, and the car is, again, as in the case of many of the new cars for 2018 season, work in development. And of course for Bentley, like everybody, their focus now is actually, apart from what we're doing here, the 6 hours of Paul Ricard, the 1,000 kilometers, is in preparation for Spa 24. And there is a test at Spa in early July or end of this month for everybody. And the big one, as they like to call it, is the race that everybody needs to optimize performance, but equally get on top of reliability. And as we're seeing with Bentley, with the Evo 2 version of the GT3 Continental, same with Nissan, pretty much everybody down the pit lane with the 2018 car, these cars are moving forward technically. They're becoming even more sophisticated. While they look like a car that you will walk into the Bentley or the Lexus showroom and put your money down and place your order, they are now becoming so sophisticated. The beauty of the Bentley is actually what is on the racetrack in terms of location of the wheels and kind of where the mechanicals are placed is very much what you will get when you buy that road car. So actually the road car and the race car in 2018 have come closer together than maybe was the previous case.
Now the Lexus number 14 you're looking at currently, Marco Seefried is at the wheel of it, 15th in the times. Of course, at the moment, what you have in Q1 is the overall classification. That only starts to become different when you get Q2 and Q3 and you start averaging out different lap times at different speeds of driver. So we're almost at the checkered flag, just a handful of seconds to go. Andrew Watson fastest has pitted, Mathieu Vazivière has pitted, Alex Fontana is still out, Dries Van Tor bouncing back from his pretty nasty accident he had in the Nürburgring 24 hours. It was a big hit. He's fourth quickest, Marco Bortolotti fifth, and then to round out the top six is the Ricky Collard Rover BMW. That's a good effort, Ricky Collard.
Yeah, I mean BMW, I think are looking competitive here at Paul Ricard, and a big step forward. I mean, I have mentioned the inclusion in the 99 car of Chaz Mostert, who of course is one of the mega stars in Australia in the supercars. as previously in seasons before, a number of Australian drivers like to come to Europe and compete in Spa 24 Hours. New Zealander Shane Van Gisbergen,
Van Gisbergen.
Yeah,
Him.
Has won over here.
Indeed.
Of course, Bathurst 12 Hours are part of the Intercontinental Challenge, and I mean that in itself is one of the mega standout GT events in the world.
Yeah, we had Craig Lowndes at Spa a few years ago, but Mostert very, very quick up and down the mountain in that 12 hours, and he's the Bathurst 1000k winner from the back of the grid as well, the lowest anybody has ever started to win the race. So Mostert, learning about the circuit, will be one to watch. Flag out, as you can see. So Q1 at an end. Have we learnt anything out of that?
Well, it's interesting that the quickest car is a McLaren, and
yeah.
that is probably the most interesting fact, because McLaren have, during the course of the season, the performance has sort of ebbed and flowed a little bit, but that's encouraging for Garage 59. Bear in mind that Chris Harris, Chris Goodwin and Alexander West won the AM category 2 weeks ago back at Silverstone, and that's the first time, I think, I can't remember when. Ordinarily, that's been the domain of the Ferrari, the Rinaldis, or the F courses. True. But that was a great result for Garage 59, and so far, quickest car on track, quickest lap so far this weekend, Andrew Watson, who actually, by the way, signed up to be managed, as I think the phrase used, by Mark Blundell, MB Associates.
Right, okay, interesting. He flies under the radar a bit, Andrew Watson. I know it's not a good phrase, that, but he does. He just gets on with life. He doesn't perhaps have too much show about him, but maybe a management company will propel him into the limelight a bit more, because certainly he's a quick driver.
Absolutely, and like any driver, we've got 150 or so drivers here this weekend. And out of that 150, you could say there are 50 who are all in that sort of element, whether they're platinum or gold, they're all very much of a similar ability given in a given car or in their given cars. And Andrew is clearly one of those 50 at least, maybe one of the 30, maybe one of the 20, even one of the 10.
Well, he's the fastest, that's for sure, thus far, by 32 thousandths of a second from Mathieu Verzivière. Alex Fontana third, Dries Van Tor fourth quickest, Mirko Bortolotti fifth, Ricky Collard sixth, Kelvin van der Linde seventh, ahead of Marcus Palteler, Marcus Winkelhock and Vincent Abril to round out the top 10. We've talked him up, let's hear from Andrew Watson. He's with our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Andrew, you're quickest in that session, you know, all's going well so far.
Yeah, to be honest, the car was absolutely perfect. Wouldn't have changed one thing. Just straight from the pit out, the car felt really good. I got a clear lap. Had to pass Bentley in the last corner, but fair play to him. He sort of saw me and let me go. So first pole in Blancpain, so really happy with that. But thanks to everyone at Garage 59 and McLaren GT, because I've been with them a few years now and they've stuck by me. And you know I've got the pace, but it doesn't always show. So it's just great, and I hope the average goes well for us now, and we have a good race later. But yeah, just over the moon.
Are your teammates going to be able to match your incredible pace this morning?
Yeah, like Ben and Com are two of the best in my opinion. So yeah, I've got no doubt they have the ability. Just hopefully it goes smoothly. You know, we don't have any problems and no traffic, and then have some lunch, have a sleep, and then go at it later on.
Best of luck. Thanks.
Thanks.
Now, there's already an issue about, no, the teams are just being reminded about transponders. I was about to say somebody's in trouble with the stewards. They're not. It's just a reminder on the screen to the teams to make sure the driver ID is correct. So now we get the driver changes. They need to be on top of that as we are ready for this second part of qualifying. Just to go through the times at the end of Q1, Andrew Watson doing the time fastest, 1:54.244 from Mathieu Verzivière, and then Alex Fontana third. Fourth quickest is Dries Van Tor ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, and fifth fastest is the Lamborghini, Ricky Collard sixth. Kelvin van der Linde going well, seventh quickest in the Attempto Audi ahead of the Emil Frey Racing Lexus. Marcus Palter at the wheel, Marcus Winkelhock is ninth, and Vincent Abril 10th. Mauro Engel, intriguingly, only 11th, but he did do his best lap on his very last lap of the session. So the car was getting there, but it was a bit too little too late for Mauro Engel.
I mean, often the case, one would accept that the last lap in qualifying 15 or so minutes is going to be the best lap.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the number 4 car, you got Mauro Engel in it, Lucas Stoltz, Jelmer Berman, and at the end of the day, I mean, the glory of being in the front row, the glory of being in pole, and I have to say, looking at the 59 McLaren Andrew Watson's lap time with Comme Ledegar and Ben Barnacote, that car could easily be the quickest car overall after these 3 qualifying sessions are complete. But it is a 6-hour race, and okay, the first hour is a bit frenetic, second hour sort of calms down, but actually we've seen from previous years this racing goes on and on until the end of the 1,000 kilometers or the 6 hours, whichever comes the first.
McLaren, of course, has been a winning brand here in the past, and now we get set for Q2. We are ready to go, and let's see who is going to come out on top then at the end of this next session. Just very quickly to mention that the best of those in the Silver Cup in Q1 was Alex Fontana. Pro-Am topped by Nicolas Jamin, who was 28th, and the Am top time Philippe Guillaume in his Acura ASP Mercedes, 39th in the times. So remember, we've got this extra class this year. There's not just overall Pro-Am and Am, there's the Silver Cup as well, which is proving to be very competitive and also giving the teams a chance to bring more silvers into the championship. You can put them together rather than have to split them up across different co-drivers, which may or may not be possible depending on the number of cars you've got, the budget you've got, and how many bronze drivers you can get to join in. Driver grading is another can of worms for the teams to juggle in the winter months.
What you want, depending on the category, if you're in a pro category, it's clear you have pro drivers, but it's in the Pro-Am category, and whether you get a really, really, really quick bronze driver who should be upgraded to silver and might be after whatever. So that's the trick that teams are always trying to play, to get the fastest bronze driver available so that the Pro-Am category is capable of challenging not just within its own category, which is obviously the first priority, but also for overall position.
So Q2 is underway, everybody now venturing out onto the circuit. It's the same principle, 15 minutes, but now it's not just about going quickly, it's this average that we need to be looking for. So you've got Dennis Lind, one of the first out, number 17, and you've got also, Sheldon van der Linde, I should say, one of the first out, number 17, and there is 26 Mark Ross down behind him. Miguel Ramos goes out, and the teams being reminded they must have the correct driver ID setting, otherwise you go to the stewards. One driver, I better get this out of the way as well, Arno Santamato, who drives number 28, and that is the Dico Lazarus second Lamborghini. He arrived here on 3 behavioural warning points for previous transgressions, and that had already earned them, even before qualifying, a 5-place grid drop. Well, he got another one yesterday in pre-qualifying, so that gives him 4 BWPs, as they're called, behavioural warning points, and 4 gives the car a 10-place grid drop, and that's even before qualifying starts. So he is about as popular with his teammates as a whatnot in a spacesuit, I would imagine, at the moment.
Not ideal, I have to say, but there we are. Just move on, get on with it. Don't dwell, don't be negative. It's just a fact of life. And it can happen to any or all of these competitors here at any point over the, well, not just in Paul Ricard, but over any of the prior races or the coming races.
And the other one, just to bear in mind, is Chris Buncombe, Nick Leventis, Lewis Williamson, Stracker Racing, Mercedes. That's had an engine change overnight, and an engine change puts you to the back of the grid.
But do you know why he had an engine change?
Do share.
There are yellow curbings. They're like sort of standalone curbings, maybe about 1 metre long, very narrow, oblong in shape, quite aggressive. Apparently, this is again for my favourite journalist, suggested that Chris might have gone over one, although he didn't do it intentionally, might have gone over it unintentionally, and it in effect ripped an oil line, which then led to the oil getting out and the engine needing there to be changed.
Right, interesting.
That's the rumour has it story.
Okay, now there's 76, they are Motorsports, Mathieu Vazivier, Jake Dennis now in the car, Nicky Team, Aston Martin. Aston, of course, a successful brand at Silverstone, albeit with this Damocletian investigation. 11th of June, I think, is the hearing to do with whether or not this empty data logger from qualifying was the team's fault, a part fault, an innocent error, whatever, and whether or not, having raced under appeal, the team will keep the win.
Yes, and what they've got to focus on now is trying to repeat what they did so successfully. I mean, this car was so impressive. The driver lineup, pole position. I mean, to go on board with Jake Dennis, during Jake's stint, he had to retake the lead because the 88 Mercedes made a slightly quicker pit stop than the 76 Aston Martin. Jake came down Wellington Straight into Brooklands, tried to make the pass, but got the track position and then made the pass up the inside of the double right-hander at Luffield. And I mean, it was a really great bit of motor racing. Tristan Vautier in the Mercedes, Jake Dennison the Aston Martin, door handle to door handle, nothing, no touching, just really good, honest-to-God motor racing.
Jake Dennis, like Mathieu Vazevière, adapting into a very accomplished GT racer. Nicky Tim, a bit more experienced, of course. He's raced in Porsche Super Cup and Carrera Cup, winning the Super Cup title before he came into Aston Martin as a factory driver. Now there, number 17, this is the South African driver, Sheldon van der Linde, brother of Kelvin van der Linde, and a former Carter, South African Volkswagen racer. He raced in the Audi Sport TT Cup last year in touring cars. He was in the TCR Championship in Germany. And the van der Lindes, a good motor racing family. Uncle Etienne used to race in the British Formula Renault Championship back in the 1990s. And Sheldon van der Linde then up over the timing line.
Well, it goes quickest in this session, 155.4. So that overall has the quickest overall presently, but there's still 10 minutes or so to go. 63 going slowly, but that's just to get track position.
Yeah.
Squirt not. There we go, coming on start-finish straight, trying to get maximum traction, maximum speed off the corner, not using the curb, sliding. You'll see cars coming to the completion of a lap running very wide. One of the Lexus, second of the two Nissans running very wide over that curbing on the exit. Sometimes you'll get all four wheels over, but watching the 63 car, Christian Engelhardt into turn one.
And Christian Clean has done the absolute best in the first sector. Andrea Rizzoli has done the absolute best in the second. And it is now Sheldon van der Linde that goes to the very top of the times, 155.400. So he's gone quickest so far in Q2. But the best average is Marcus Paltela, number 114, now, because the Lexus has provisional pole if you take the average into account.
That's what counts, but there's still one session to go.
Indeed.
But 63, fastest overall, sector one, Christian Engelhardt behind the wheel. We haven't seen the kind of performance this year so far from the 63 Lamborghini, and the team will say, well, we've had a revision on our BOP, and that's the reason why. Maybe that has been revised again, because that's a quick first sector time, 265 kilometers per hour, 2/3 of the way down the Mistral straight to 275. Can he clip 280 before he gets to the brakes coming into the Steen corner?
Oh, nearly.
Almost. Again, down to fifth gear, lets the car run wide. Watch for those two. There's two little, almost like paddles, which represent the limit of the exit of the corner. Personal best, second sector. So Christian Clean, quickest overall in this session on a 154.621. What's Christian Clean going to do in the 63 Lamborghini?
Christian Engelhardt, 63.
Engelhardt, yeah.
Too many Christians. Not enough lines. Christian Clean is now quickest on average as well. So as you're riding on board with Engelhardt, it is Clean who has swept up. He's fastest on average and fastest overall.
And Engelhardt got slightly wrong-footed one of the Bentleys. Did get out of the way eventually, but it would have been a slight problem for the Lamborghini. It goes overall second quickest in this session, a 155.1, half a second down. And that little moment in the final corner would have undoubtedly taken 2 or 3 tenths of that half a second that he's down on the current quickest time. Ortelli has now gone in the sister Lexus, second quickest in this session, just a tenth of a second away from Christian Clean in the 1-1 and the 14.
And Ortelli now goes quickest on average. So there, 114, the redoubtable Stefan Ortelli is the man on pole position provisionally, because this has the best average across Q1 and Q2.
And he bounced up to me this morning and said, John, I've got a photograph of you taken here in 1976 on the podium, but I want you to sign it for me.
Oh, what a good guy. He's a proper enthusiast,
And
Stefan
at that
Ortelli.
time, I had a beard. No, yes, I did.
Yes.
I did have a beard at that time.
It's coming back, I notice.
It's very grey. My favourite colour.
Stefan Ortelli, evergreen, I think you could say. Dropped from Audi at the end of that Sepang 12-hour win, but has found a very happy home at Emil Frey Racing. And now the car to watch is the Lenny or Lennart Marionette Writer Young Stars Lamborghini. That's the venerable Gallardo, not the Huracan, and he's done an absolute best within Sector 2.
I mean, I'm continually being amazed. And Ryder has taken the Gallardo, which has been superseded by the Huracan, and still developing that car, and still it's running quickly.
Yeah.
So lap 2 of car 25, for, as lap time has been cancelled for track limits at turn 2. That's the exit of that left and right onto the back end of the circuit. So car 25 is the Sunderlock Racing, Marcus Finkelhock, Simon Gachet, Christopher Hasse.
Okay, now there's also been better news for Audi because Christopher Mies has gone fastest in Q2 and is fastest on average. So the session order is Mies, Clean, Ortelli, and then up to 4th has just gone Sandy Mitchell, heading the Silver Cup in the Barwell Ecuria Cos Lamborghini, because Sandy is part of that Scottish team. 5th is Christian Engelhardt, who we were watching earlier, and 6th is former Grand Prix racer Vitaly Petrov.
76. And let's see what we're going to get from Jake Dennis as he's trying to find clear space. He's got a faster sector overall in Sector 1. In the middle sector, probably having to deal with traffic, and he's got traffic further ahead, one of the Grassl Racing Lamborghinis. So let's look and see whether the 76 can repeat what it did so efficiently and effectively 2 weekends ago at Silverstone, into the final curve and then run the curve on the exit. Economical on the exit, not as far off as some of the following cars. So 76 come across the line, 72 Ferrari quickest overall. Dennis goes second quickest, 0.3 of a second down in this second qualifying, but the 72 Ferrari, excuse me, Vicar, 154.1.
An extraordinary time. Miguel Molina has done it to go top, and fastest on average now, 76, courtesy of the time of Mathieu Vezivier and then by Jake Dennis, but up to second on average has just gone the Ben Barnicoat McLaren, because he's 5th in Q2 and second on average. You're looking at Sandy Mitchell. It might be a bit confusing at times, talking about the average order being so jumbled compared to what you have in the individual session, but it doesn't often give a good grid.
Sandy Mitchell was on track to do a good time, just coming through that sequence of corners up around its turn 12. He just got a little back end snapped out and had to move slightly offline. So that will have a bearing on the lap that he is currently on. So let's have an idea of where Sandy Mitchell is on this. Currently 8th on this previous lap. 154.7.
Slower.
It's virtually identical time, but could have been quicker. Yeah. That little bobble in turn 12.
54.7, and that was a 56.0, so 1.3 off. And the car 8th, it remains in the session, 14th on average. Number 14, Christian Klein's Lexus has now been given over for the purposes. Sorry, it is still Christian Klein, forgive me, he's doing the Q2 duty, isn't he? Because the opening shift was Marco Seefried. So Klein is still second, and he's got to find 0.262 of a second to go top, but on average, he's only 7th.
I mean, that's what sort of you think when you look at the timing and scoring, you think, oh, I'm second quickest. Excellent, rub your hands.
Yeah.
When you look at the other screen, which is the combined first and second sector times, oh, I'm 7th, and my teammates ahead of me.
And all these gaps, we're talking thousands largely, very tight. And Klein getting compromised there behind the McLaren. Was that the Ben Barnicoat?
That's the 58, yes. So Klein coming in. Barnicoat was backing up to try and get a clear run off the final turn. So he's on his way, but Christian Klein decided, well, let's get back into the pits. Only 3 minutes remaining. The 911 Porsche, likewise, Dirk Werner behind the wheel, 10th quickest in this session, looking at 14th overall. So Dirk Werner's done a good job. Roman Dumas was outside the top 20. Dirk Werner inside the top 20. Number 7, Jules Gougnot just popped up 16th quickest in, I think, is that the lead of the Bentleys? Yes, it is. So they into the top 20, 19th overall.
Andy Soucek 15th.
So where is
11th?
Okay, so the two Bentleys inside the top 20.
Seb Morris, 31, the Team Parker Racing Bentley, has had a lap time removed. And now, with 2 minutes and change on the clock, the likes of Klein and Dennis and Werner and Marvin Kirchhoff are heading for the pit lane to give the team a little bit more work, time to work, I should say, in anticipation of Q3.
Seb Morris, if you're familiar with Seb, he's a propensity to talk about his cars being the old girl. At Silverstone, yes. Are the old girls doing this? Are the old... I thought, Seb, maybe you should maybe moderate your...
I suspect compared to the new generation Bentley, she could be deemed an old girl. But
well, I wouldn't go that. Ben Barnicoat runs wide on the exit of Scene down into Busset. A corner, there's a myriad of options, but the one that he's taking is the preferred one. You've got to hang high. It's almost a semi-banked corner, but then to get the car to turn down, that requires a good, stable balance, front end in particular, get the car to come back down to make that late apex to get the speed off the corner.
So Ben Barnicoat, single-seater champion, Formula Renault NEC champ, then he drove in Formula 3 race winner and was picked up by McLaren. He's already been a winner in GT4 in British GT this year. Very, very quick in GT3 McLarens. And when he's not racing, you can normally find him standing on a terrace at a Briscoe Formula 1 stock car event. Loves his F1 stock cars, has raced in them, and has been very successful in them in the annual novices race at Birmingham. Now there, getting back to the plot, the R Motorsport team hard at work, and that's what a GT3 Aston Martin looks like inside.
Actually, it looks pretty uncomplicated. Some are getting, there's a lot of equipment, electronic readouts, whatever. Ooh, I mean, really, that was bringing Stefano Telli right out to the very limit of what is acceptable through Scene, then into Poussey. Not running as high in the middle part as some other drivers are doing, but that's down to personal feel, personal preferences. Stefano Telli, very familiar with the Paul Ricard racetrack for many years, primarily in other sports racing prototypes, now, of course, in GT3.
So 114, Stefano Telli, Le Mans winner, Spa 24-hour winner, Porsche Super Cup champion, and he's barely missed a season, has he really, since the early 90s, comes up towards the timing line, and he will squeeze one more lap out of this if the tyres allow. 7th in the session, doesn't improve. He was half a second off his earlier best, and the car's 6th on average.
So he's got relatively clear track of the 53 Ferrari, and that is down at the Musée, I think.
It's Louis Machiels that's lost it. He's already lost a lap time for track limit abuse.
And there it makes your eyes go funny.
Yeah, it does, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you look at it and think, you start to squint.
Where am I? It is Beausset, you're quite right.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
And a red flag, John, sorry. A red flag has come up on the screen. I don't know why, because we'd already had a checkered flag.
Well, yeah, it's unusual, a red flag and a checkered flag. Checkered flag, then a red flag. But whatever, everybody is required by that red flag to come back. Louis, slow down.
It may have been because that car was in an awkward place, but of course it's now got going. But the red lights are on, the red flag is out.
The question is, will he come into the pits as he's required to do under a red flag? Or has he taken the checkered flag? Or has he still think he's got it? No, he's coming in. Good. Best lap overall, theoretical, before you say it is theoretical, is a 1:53.6. If you take all the fastest individual sector times, nobody's got within half a second of that.
It's interesting, isn't it? And it's Jake Dennis, the best in Sector 1, Maxime Martin in Sector 2, I think Molina in Sector 3, so different cars, different drivers.
Aston Ferrari.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
I mean, what we saw at Silverstone was the mid-front engine cars basically dominated qualifying. So I asked an entrant of a mid-rear engine car what he thought the reasons were, and I've explained this already to the viewers who watched at Silverstone, but I'll repeat it again. Pirelli have introduced a rear tyre that's got more stability, primarily for the mid-rear engine cars. David, do you want to do this?
Let's just quickly rattle through the top 10 at least and mention that we're now thinking of the grid here. So fastest in Q2 Midwell Molina 1:54.153, but taking the average lap, this is how the order looks. The 76 Aston from 58 McLaren, number 1 Audi, never rule it out. Number 72 Ferrari is up to 4th, ahead of number 63 Lamborghini. Then you've got the best of the, or the better of the two Lexuses, with the Ortelli Siedler Palter car ahead of the sister car of Marco Seefried, Christian Klee, Albert Costa. Stein Scotthorst did a good lap to bring 66 up to 8th. Then you've got Alex Fontana, 9th from the Brundle Kirchhoff Martin Aston, and Nick Yellerly now helping the 98 BMW to 11th. Nick having won the Porsche Super Cup race at Monaco a week ago. The better Bentley is 12th, better of the works M Sport cars there, with Andy Soucek's time helping it up to 14th. But a fascinating mix as you go down the order here. And I'm still trying to sort out in my brain what's going on with the number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes. So strong yesterday, but they barely featured the Mercedes from any team this morning.
Well, they will be on new tyres, so that can't be an excuse. So whether they made an overnight change or whether there's something that is catching them out, but you'd have to say, other than they could claim they were getting every lap they were doing traffic, I would doubt that. So it's an interesting situation. That car further back, if it's 14th, as you say, overall, that would be 7th row of the grid. If that's where they ended up after 3 qualifying sessions, not where I would anticipate that car being. So it'll be Jelmer Verman in the number 4 Black Vulcan Mercedes for this final qualifying round. He needs to find, in effect, 3/4 of a second to elevate that car up to the front row of the grid alongside the Aston which is currently quickest the 76 Aston, showing yet again phenomenal pace.
So fastest in Q2 is Miguel Molina in the SMP Racing Ferrari. Let's hear from the Spanish driver right now.
Miguel, that was an absolute mega lap. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good lap. I could find a good spot. I had to abort the first flying lap to take some space in the track, but at the end it worked out. So I'm really happy. The car is quite good out there. So let's see if Davide can improve also the times, and we can be a bit more up in the qualifying results. So really happy so far. We know that the race will be completely different conditions and long race, but it's looking promising, yeah.
Now 51 cars on track. The competition is really tough here, right?
Yeah, like always. Blancpain is always a tough competition, and really small gaps between the cars, and so we need to extract all the performance that we have to try to be as much as in front as possible for the race. So yeah, so far we are really happy with the car and with my lap.
Let's see. Good luck. Thanks.
So Miguel Molina Gonzalez, to give him his full title, now sets off to monitor the progress of teammate David Ricard, who will go into Q3. And this is the overall fastest car, number 76. So Mathieu Vazivière and Jake Dennis have had a go, and now Nicky Team, who arguably is the quicker of the three drivers, certainly the more experienced in terms of GT cars. Nicky Team will do the final stint, and this is a circuit that has offered some spectacular views this morning. The circuit busy this weekend with the track time for these cars for the Blancpain GT Sports Club and the local Alpine support race. That shows you the great mix of car, and also with that heat haze in the background, a reminder of the temperatures, because it's just gone 20 past 10 local time. It's a very, very hot day, and of course the drivers, John, have got to cope with the high temperatures at the start of the race, and then it gets a little bit cooler, but even so, it's going to be very hot inside the cars all day.
Yeah, I mean, it is a difficult race, particularly in those opening maybe hour or hours. There's a residue of the heat that build up over the day. Hopefully, because tomorrow they're forecasting bad weather, as we see the 17 getting well and truly off track. That thunderstorms are coming to Provence, to the area where the Paul Ricard circuit is located, but nothing expected here this afternoon or into the nighttime hours. I would hate to think what would happen if it rained about 11:30 or maybe 11 o'clock. You know, just windscreens are smeared with rubber and whatever else. That would really be a sorting out the girls. There's no girls racing here this weekend. The men from the boys.
Indeed it would. Indeed it would. You can see the 70th anniversary legend on the back of the now Fred Makoviecki driven Porsche. It just looks like a giant highlighter pen, that car. It draws attention to itself with the livery, but also the speed. And the Manthey racing car, it's not, although it's Olaf Manthey's name, he's really no involvement now. He's still got a stake in it, but it's independently run, but under his name. But very much a factory-blessed team. You've got factory drivers in it, and a two-car assault on the Nürburgring 24 hours successfully as well, with the second of the two cars. Makoviecki was one of the drivers thereof. And the fast lane is open, as you can see, so the team's now being released down the pit lane, ready to blast out onto the circuit. So 15 minutes once again. We'll have the times from the session, we'll have the average, and we go into this with 76 being the fastest, with the average lap being a 1:54.371, taking the times of Vazivière and Jake Dennis into account.
Well, I was going to say, just a couple of spectators watching. I mean, it is such a colourful event.
Yeah.
You've got 51 cars, individual, whatever way the cars are dressed up, either with sponsorship or in some cases lack of sponsorship. But it's the variety and colour that makes this such a fantastic event.
So there, at the end of the pit lane, the cars are good to go. And the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup, a regular visitor to the Circuit de Castellet, Paul Ricard circuit, and we will get the cars out in about 5 seconds' time for this third qualifying session. And certainly this new format does give us an interesting grid.
I mean, I think it's transformed qualifying. As we look at Stephen Kane with his helmet and the little British Racing Driver Club sticker on the side of the helmet, proud member of the club, of course. I think it has transformed qualifying because it is this amalgamation, and it has taken away the pressure once qualifying is over, as it was previously the case of a gentleman or an AM driver starting a 12-hour race, a 6-hour race, a 3-hour race, or whatever, 24-hour race. It is now the car that gains that position, and it's down to the team as to the quickest individual driver in each of the 3 sessions. He will then be the starter. A bit busy down in the back of the circuit through 4 and 5.
But now it's pressure time. This is where you've got to deliver. And so as the Lamborghinis hustle on, you've got number 5 there, Rui Aguas, who was a winner in, I can't really call it historic racing, modern classic racing last week with the Peugeot 908 of Crichton Lendudis. He was racing at Brands Hatch. He drives with Crichton Lendudis in this car here, but Crichton has one of the recent Peugeot 908 World Endurance cars.
I mean,
Rui won with it.
Well, the sister car got involved in an accident in Hawthorne.
Did, exactly.
Unfortunately, but I mean, to see a car like that, I mean, those are mega high-tech Le Mans prototypes.
Yeah.
And racing at a national event in Great Britain. I sadly can't get my head around it, but there we are.
Yes. But those that survived being driven very well. And importantly, just going off on a tangent, Martin Short will tell you this, the cars have value again because now there's somewhere for them to race. People want to buy them rather than them just being stuck in a garage. His Roll Centre Delara, all of a sudden, he's worth something. So he's very pleased. Anyway, back to the plot. 77 you're looking at, which is the Barwell Lamborghini. That's Leo Machitsky at the wheel, the Russian driver. And we'll start to see whether or not the grid is going to be hugely affected. Number 4 is Yelmer Berman at the wheel. He's going to be one to watch as he goes into the last corner down at the Virage du Pont.
So right now, 24, it's the Ryder Young Stars, Lamborghini Gallardo again. Fastest overall time. Okay, so an out lap in Sector 2.
So it's through they stream. It also, again, you look at the clock and you realise that we're nearly 3 minutes in, and only now are the leading cars starting a flying lap. There through is the Porsche. We've got 2 of them, don't forget. There's the Manthey racing car overall. Then there's the AM Cup BES Motorsport car of Jürgen Hering, the pseudonym Edward Lewis Browner and Wolfgang Triller.
And that was Fred Makiewicz, as you pointed out, in the 911 Porsche. Currently they are 18th, 9th row of the grid start. Robert Seidler in one of the very impressive Lexus that we've seen at Silverstone. We're seeing once again. Well, currently 7th and 6th, respectively. Well, there's a car that is the sister car to the ultra-dominant number 76. And is it Alex Brundle behind? No, it's not. It's Maxime Martin is behind the wheel, another legend. And he won at the weekend in British GT, I believe.
Yes, he did. Right, at Snetterton, that's right. Yes, getting my brain back in gear. Yeah. And it's still, for me, he's taking time to think of him as not driving BMWs. He's been linked, of course, with the Z4, then the M6, and the M4 in the DTM. Now he goes to a different brand. 114, who's behind the wheel for the final session? It is Norbert Seidler, and he's on the money in this real grunt and go Lexus. And Emil Frey Racing, I may be wrong about this, John, offer a thought if you will, but it seems to have taken them a lot less time to get on top of the Lexus than it did with the Jaguar.
I think,
is that fair?
I think, well, I had a conversation this morning with somebody who's not a member of the team, but their observations were interesting, is that I think the initial incarnation of the Lexus was engineered in one direction. I think there has been a change in direction in that engineering. So the Lexus RCF GT3, to give it its full title, is making very, very rapid progress, not just on the circuit, but in terms of the development that the car is going through. And this car and the 23 Nissan, the Evo 2 version, probably are benefiting from Super 300 in GT racing and even Super 500 in Japan. Yeah. So there is carryover, I think, that's coming into the GT3, the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance versions of both the Nissan, and the Nissan doesn't race in the Sprint, but in the case of the Lexus, so progress. Okay. Fastest overall, second in Sector 2.
Indeed so. Now, fastest time in the session, Rui Aguas Mercedes, interestingly, 156.071. The best average, you ready? Patrick Niederhauser in the venerable Gallardo. That car, number 24, the Wrighty Young Stars entry, 1:56.734. So it may not last, but that provisionally is topping the times on average. Number 24 is over the line to go top. Goes 1:14. Norbert Siedler, quickest in Q3. Best average lap as well for the number 1:14 Lexus.
And no surprise, and one would assume that the 1:14 Lexus getting a clear run on this lap, second flying lap, might do something any better as we look at the 76 Aston Martin. Nicky Team. I mean, what can you say about Nicky Team that hasn't already been said? What can you say that hasn't been said, Dave? That was a question.
Silence reign, did you notice? I was thinking, it's only worth making the point that he's a second generation racer. His dad, very successful former DTM champion. Albert Costa now goes fastest, again for the Emil Frey Racing team. And that is with the Lexus, and that puts him quickest in Q3, quickest on average as well. But Jelmer Berman, second now. And Fred Verviche is third in Q3 in the Audi. You're on board with Nicky Tim. What can you say about Nicky Tim, John, that's not been said before?
I've just listened. So he's down a gear. Everybody's going down to fifth gear to get through Scene Corner. And not being as aggressive on the edge of the Scene Corner, a personal best first and second sector. So this is, we think, his first flying lap. And, you know, everything is all very, very in control. So this lap will be, if you like, a sight lap for the Danish driver, and trying maybe to juggle track position at the same time. Those cars that are closing the Lexus being one of them, trying to just balance the position to have another go.
Albert Costa, though, is doing a personal and an absolute best in sectors 1 and 2 on his next lap. As up to fourth goes Andrea Caldarelli, fourth in Q3, and the number 63 Lamborghini from Pereira. 82 Lamborghini is up into the top 10. Marco Mappelli Lamborghini up to 13. So bang, all three of the GRT cars suddenly improved. Replay here of number 14. Now that is the Albert Costa car taking out that bollard, that marker, that I suspect is going to incur the interest, at least, of officialdom.
I think it will do, because it was pretty clear that he didn't avoid it. He hit it fairly and squarely and skittled it down the outside of the raceway. Davide Rigo, we were talking about him a few minutes ago, second quickest overall in the third sector, the 72 Ferrari. Quickest overall, David, 54.512, Ferrari provisional pole.
Quickest by 84 thousandths on average, 7 minutes on the clock. So you need lots of eyes for this session. Instantly we're looking at the lap times, then you have to look across and look at how that's going to affect things on average. As Maxime Martin goes up to fifth fastest on a 1:54.589, and where does that put him on average? It puts him fifth on average as well.
But where is the sister car, the 76? That was quickest overall, sectors 1 and 2 combined. Waiting to see where sector 19th
on average.
Nicky Team.
76. Yeah, come on, Nicky. We've not really seen a gun lap out of him yet. So Nicky on the money. Let's see what he can do this time. He's running out of laps, running out of time. You don't get many opportunities really within the 15 minutes. Get rid of an out lap and an in lap. You've only got, what, 4 or 5 flyers, if that.
And I mean, you've got 51 cars effectively could be on racetrack all at one time. They never are. Nevertheless, it's this car, the 72 Ferrari, the SMP entry, that is combined quickest overall, with 6 minutes remaining.
Indeed, so Miguel Molina
bodywork hanging out the front.
Yeah, there is some damage there. So that presumably is because he's clipped the little trackside furniture and peeled it back, or is it? No, it's only a sticker.
It's a sticker. Well, that's not it, is it?
It is an end plate.
It's a bit of carbon fibre.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's flapping. Actually, the rhythm of the flaps is wonderful. The pulses of that flap really worthy of a much closer investigation.
We've had a lap
Here's
time.
the car, 62.
Indeed. This is the Maxime Martin car. Nicky Team has gone fastest. Q3, 1:54.169. Nicky Team is on pole position on average, 1:54.303. We've had a lap time cancelled from car number 43 for exceeding track limits, and 43 is Maximilian Buch.
Maxi, not coming together as it has done in previous seasons for the young German driver.
No.
Don't know why. It's hard to understand, because the Stracker Mercedes AMG GT3 is a mega car, but where the first Mercedes overall in this session is fourth, that's the Black Falcon car, overall is, I think, eighth. Yep. Same Black Falcon car.
That's right, which is thanks to Jelmer Berman's efforts in this session. So 76 is the one to beat at the moment. Nicky Team, quickest in the session, quickest on average.
Tom Blomqvist in this session in the 99 BMW Row Racing up to 8th quickest, so 8th. 99 is 14th overall, just one ahead of its sister car, which is in 15th.
That's right. So, yeah, Tom Blom setting the best time in that car. 98 at the moment. Ricky Collard's time, keeping that in the mix. So what have we got left? Just 4.5 minutes, and Nicky Team finds traffic as he wriggles his way up now towards the line. And he's back out of it.
He's back out of it. He's got the Nissan ahead, and that was going to overrun, so backs out of it. Lets the Nissan continue on its way with a clear track there. You can see the Aston Martin running way off the pace. Needs to be careful not to get too far off the line to help other cars that may be coming back behind to put himself in position to have another go and see if he can further extend the 0.2 of a second advantage that he currently holds over the second place Ferrari of Davide Rigo. The overall time, not the individual lap times.
Another lap time being binned is 25 Christopher Haase, who you could whisper it, put in the should know better category. There's Jelmer Berman. In the almost anonymous, there's barely a sponsor on it. Black Falcon Mercedes. Looks like it's almost driven out of the car park, that.
I mean, the car, look, if you look at it up close, it is truly stunning. The paint job, or, I mean, sometimes these cars have got what you call a wrap.
Yep.
So they change them because it's much easier to change a wrap with a sponsor's name on it than it is to repaint a car. So Berman comes through slowly, slightly wrong foots the Jaguar directly behind. So he's on it. The Jaguar is probably cursing under his helmet. Come Lettergaard, by the way, in the 58 McLaren, the car that was very impressive in the opening stint, up to 7th overall, 7th in this session, I beg your pardon, and 17th overall. What am I talking about? 58, I'm looking at 58 is second. So the McLaren is now on that provisional front row on the grid ahead of the 72 Ferrari.
And it's great, isn't it, to see the McLaren bouncing back. We've had an absolute best from Michael Meadows in the first sector, Mercedes. Interesting how Mercedes now starting to come to the fore after two rather anonymous earlier parts of qualifying, but there's a lot to shake out of this in the remaining 2.5 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm intrigued to see that Garage 59 have done whatever the work they've carried out. There is the car. So up onto that provisional front row of the grid, Andrew Watson. Is it still Andrew Watson behind the wheel of that car? 58. It's not Tom Lettergaard. We keep got the timing and scoring. It's showing still Andrew Watson, but it is Tom Lettergaard. 88. The Mercedes. Raffaele Marcello, third quickest overall in sector of time. And in qualifying 3 years to see where they are overall. They are done in 10th place. So the 88 Mercedes, the car that was very strong competitor at Silverstone, finished second, is currently on the provisional 5th row of the grid. So waiting for Com Lettergaard to come up to the completion of a lap. Don't know whether this is going to be an improvement overall. His personal best in the first and second sector. He's going to get slightly wrong-footed with the traffic directly ahead of him, and he might be coming into the pits. No, he's staying out, going to have another go. But with traffic ahead, it'll not help his lap time particularly. It might be good for understanding where the car is in relation to other traffic that he will have to contend with as we get through this 6-hour race later this evening.
Michael Meadows, incidentally, did improve his lap time to go 9th and therefore to go 11th on the grid. Come Lettergaard 3rd in the session, 2nd overall. Jake Dennis is looking pretty pleased about life, the British driver. Sam Hickman in the background, because Jota, which is Sam's team, has an involvement. And it's a team made up of differing people, different skills, but it's all gelling nicely now, and it's a very young team.
Yes, and also there's a small content from Arden as well in the team.
I also thought I'd just spotted Wolfgang Schattling in the background.
Wolfgang Schattling is the I would call PR manager for the team, of course, better known for his many years at the Mercedes at different levels, whether it was in DTM or Formula One or even going back to the good old days of Group C. But Wolfgang is here.
So it is Aston Martin fastest. Nicky Team, who's called in a session now, he's in the pit lane, has done this 1:54.169, and it's a 1:54.303 on average. So again, it shows you that the drivers are all good on those lap times, because the best is only, what, a couple of tenths, if that, quicker than the average. Looking pretty good, that.
And the 72 Ferrari comes across the line, 154.7. Good lap time, bearing in mind he's run pretty much the duration without a pit stop. Needs to do something with a bit of errant carbon fibre on the left side of the car. Dedicado has improved in time in that session. Still, that car second overall.
And the flag out, so qualifying at an end. The one that's disappointed me, and I hate to say this, is 911, because Fred Makovici has not broken into the top 20. And you've got to go a long way down. He's 37th in that session.
I've got no explanation. I mean, I lost words there. You see the 76 team all delighted, understandably and rightly so. Great effort. Second pole position, consecutive pole position for the R Motorsport team.
Everybody being congratulated, everybody happy. But that's only the beginning of the story, of course, because now they've got 6 hours. And these guys that you're looking at in the pit lane, in the pit box, are going to play a hugely important part, because there are more pit stops and there are more opportunities for things to go wrong.
And I mean, not just having secured pole position, but in fact they got the sister car back in 7th overall. That'll be starting on the 4th row. They'll get alongside Stefano Telli in the second of the Lexus. So the lead Lexus, the number 14 car, Albert Costa, he will start second row of the grid, 4th quickest overall after 3 qualifying sessions. And it's amazing that bit of carbon fibre has been flapping, I'm not saying like what, pretty much for 15 minutes, and it's still flapping.
Yeah, having peeled off or peeled back, it has remained in place. So we will look forward shortly to a great race with this mega entry. But before we go through the times, let's hear from the 3 drivers of that pole car, and a great job done by Nicky T.
Wow, boys, that was absolutely amazing. A great performance from all 3 of you. Nicky, come on, that must have been a mega lap you've done there.
Yeah, 2 in a row, baby. That's amazing. Great job by teammates again. Again, it's all about being consistent, and we hammer in really consistent lap times, and the average we are up in front now. It's really tight, but yeah, it feels great.
I almost feel like there's a little competition going between the 3 of you. He's a flying Frenchman. So what are you doing?
Oh, I don't know. God knows. I don't know. I don't know what I am, but what a day. Obviously, a double pole, Silverstone home race, then we've come here and done it again. We thought it would be tough, and yeah, it was. It was pretty tight this weekend, and mega job. Nicky pulled it out in the end, and yeah, what a lap just to secure it. And yeah, mega job by obviously everyone in the team.
Well, the real answer was you're happy to be on pole, right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm really happy. Still, really nice job from my 2 teammates. And yeah, now we need to focus on the race because it will be long, 6 hours. So yeah, we need to bring home the victory again.
Is it nice to have a pole on your home track?
Yeah, for sure. Everywhere. Pole is a very nice, nice moment.
Well done, boys. Let's see how the race goes.
Well, it's going to be a long race, going to be a hard race. There's the changing light as much as the changing fortunes. And with the number 4 Mercedes, a car to watch, with McLaren in the mix, with Ferraris up there. Don't rule out the Lexus. What about Audi? Because Christopher Meeks puts number 1 5th on the grid. We rather discounted them at Monza, and then at the end of 3 hours, bang, it was an Audi win. So you can never rule them out. Let's have a quick look then at how the grid forms provisionally, barring any penalties, and penalties for technical infringements as well. That the 76 Aston Martin it is then by just 0.07 of a second from 58 McLaren. Ferrari 3rd, Lexus 4th, Audi 5th, Lamborghini 6th. 7th is the second of the Aston Martins, ahead of the 114 Lexus. The best Mercedes 9th, then more Mercedes 10th from Marciello, Thomas Jaeger, Adam Christodoulou car. That'll be one to watch, I reckon. With more Mercedes and Audi 11th and 12th. 51 cars, incidentally, in total. And these are the times you're looking at based on the average set by the 3 drivers across those sessions. The number 54 Jaguar taking 13th, BMW 14th, Bentley 15th, BMW 16th. Scroll further down and you find the Nissan number 23 a long way back with 19th, and the number 78 Sandy Mitchell Lamborghini 20th. Go further down the order, more of the Black Falcon Mercedes lower than you'd anticipate. And the Writer Youngstars car in the end did fade, 32nd. Andrea Bertolini helped to get the number 53 Ferrari up to 33rd. And where's the Straka 42? That gets its back of the grid drop because of the engine change. And number 89, winners of the AM Cup in Monza. Fabio Barthez, his car 43rd. The times rounded out by 991 Porsche. So let's have a quick look at the highlights of qualifying then, with the cars streaming out onto the circuit for Q1. And track position essential, but as the cars got lighter, it was always going to be about Q3 where the times were set. The Porsche with Romain Dumas at the wheel early on rather flattered to deceive, and that's a car further down than you'd expect. Bentley also, with his new generation car, Andy Soucek watching his car, has yet to really deliver. But 6 hours of racing, an awful lot can yet change. We'll see what pans out. This was Romain Dumas hard at work in the 911. 911, as he came up towards the Virage Dupont, traffic up the road ahead of him, with some of the drivers using as much curve as they could to try and shorten the lap, bring the lap times down. Pit work essential, as was a quick release as the Bentley blasted away. But demolish those markers, as Norbert Siedler did, and you're going to be in trouble. And that was Patrick Niederhauser having a spin way off the road at turn 10. The car with Thomas Enger at the wheel here crashed last year, but a spin. We had the flapping end plates for 72 at the very end, Davide Rigon. 76 Aston Martin on pole position. We'll see you later for the race.